So for the past 2 weeks, we have seen the indiscriminate bombardment of Gaza. Entire families wiped out. Residential neighborhoods flattened to the ground. The targeting of hospitals and schools and churches and mosques and medical workers, journalists, UN aid workers. How is that self-defense? You know, why is it that whenever Israel commits these atrocities, it comes under the banner of self-defense, but when there's a violence by Palestinians, it is immediately called terrorism? Is the word terrorism just reserved exclusively for Muslims and Arabs?
Well, let me ask you then,
there's a real double standard here that we're seeing.
Your husband,
and
King
there's also
Abdullah.
a whole symmetry that we see.
Well, let me ask you this. Your husband, King Abdullah.
Symmetry, because these are not two equal people in the conflict. You know, one is an occupier and one is the occupied. One has a military, one of the mightiest in the world, and the other doesn't have a military at all. So there is a false symmetry here that is being drawn. And there's also, you know, when you say the right to defend itself, that does not say the entire story. It doesn't say the story of the violation of international law, international humanitarian law. It doesn't tell you the suffering and the story of an occupation. You know, Israel is in violation of no less than 30 UN security resolutions that require it and it alone to act to withdraw from territories occupied in 1967, to stop the settlements, the separation wall, the human rights violations. This is at the crux of this issue. It is not this hyperfixation on Hamas.
Can I ask you, to sort of elaborate, because your husband, King Abdullah, I believe it was last weekend at the summit of Arab leaders in Cairo, he said, the message the Arab world is hearing is loud and clear. Palestinian lives matter less than Israeli ones. Our lives matter less than other lives. I know you've said a lot about, your feelings about what's going on right now, but do you think in general that that's true, that even world leaders and others, and you meet a lot of them, and so does the king, which is why he said that, I assume?
Well, like I said, it has been very disappointing to see the double standards in the world today, to see that the strong condemnation of what happened on October 7th, but very little condemnation of what is happening today. Why isn't there a call for an immediate ceasefire? We are seeing staggering human suffering happening today. Why is the narrative always skewed towards to the Israeli side? The Western media and policymakers are quick to adopt the Israeli narrative. When Israel attacks, Palestinians die. But when Israelis die, they are murdered in cold blood. It's a massacre. So even like on October 7th, we've seen the situation described as savagery, barbaric, bloodthirsty, cold-blooded, but we're not seeing that terminology being describing the situation today, even though the atrocities are of greater magnitude. I'm not arguing accuracy, Christian. I'm arguing equivalence and double standards here. When the President of the United States is told that he has seen evidence of children beheaded, only to retract because the IDF said that there's no proof of that. That is confirmation bias. Even at your network, Christian, the CNN website at the beginning of the conflict reported a headline of Israeli children found butchered in an Israeli kibbutz. And when you read through the story, it hasn't been independently verified. Now, my question to you, would you publish such a damning yet unverified claim made by a Palestinian?
Queen Rania, I just need to stop you right there, because there have been pictures shown by the Israelis, and our journalists have been down there. I'm not talking about beheadings. I'm talking about babies' bodies riddled with bullets and things. But let's it is just all so horrible, as you say. I want to ask you about what Jordan has said, and your husband, the king, has said, that there has been anyway an attempt or suggestion to move Palestinians who are trying to seek safety either into Egypt or into Jordan, your country, and the king has said this is a red line. I think the plan by certain of the usual suspects to try and create de facto issues on the ground. No refugees in Jordan, no refugees in Egypt.
Well, look, the people of Gaza now are facing two choices. Either they leave or they face death or collective punishment. So essentially, they're giving a choice between expulsion or extermination, between ethnic cleansing and genocide. And no people should be given, have to face that kind of choice. And what my husband was referring to is the people of Palestine of Gaza should not be forced to be moved again. Most of the residents of Gaza are already refugees. And right now, at least 1 million have been displaced from their homes. So we do not want another mass displacement of Palestinians like what happened at the Nakba in 1948. And that's what my husband meant about this being a red line. The Palestinians have the right to remain on their land.
Yeah, because they were concerned about so-called forcible transfer and never being allowed to come back. There have been quite a lot of protests in your own country, as in many other parts of the world, and you have explained what is shaping up, and that is a very different narrative about what's happening depending on what part of the world people come from and certain leaders come from. There's a most definite taking of sides that's absolutely going on, as you illustrated. What about, though, or are you kind of used to it now and have to manage it, the protests on the street, even against the 1994 peace treaty? Are you concerned about the anger and the wider war or the wider instability in countries like yours or in others around the region?
Well, you would be concerned if there is division, but we are absolutely united in our stance. We all believe in the same thing. We are all feeling the same pain. We all want the same thing. And so I think there's a lot of unity in the Arab world. And as I said, there is a sense of, do our lives matter less? You know, why is it that when people are coming to represent, the Palestinian issue, at the top of an interview, they have to have their humanity cross-examined. They have to present their moral credentials. You know, do you condemn? And we don't see Israeli officials being asked to condemn. And when they are, people are readily accept our right to defend ourselves. I have never seen a Western official say the sentence, Palestinians have the right to defend themselves. And so, we are seeing this. When, even in Western democracies, freedom of speech is apparently a universal value, except when you mention Palestine. When people gather in support of Israel, they're exercising their right to assembly. But when they gather for Palestine, they are deemed terrorist sympathizers or anti-Semitic. So you're seeing these double standards, and it's creating all of this disillusionment in the Arab world and in many who are just seeing the injustice. And I just want to emphasize, Christian, that at the end of the day, there is no military solution to this issue. Wars are never won. There are always losses on all sides. Victory is a myth that politicians make in order to justify immense loss of life. There can only, even if Israel goes and defeats every last, or kills every last Hamas member, then what? Haven't they left a trail of terrible memories, horrific memories, that will just create a new generation of resistance that is fiercer and more violent? Because at the end of the day, you can only have a political resolution to this. And my husband has for so long always emphasized that there can be no peace and stability in the Middle East without a political resolution. So even if you're an ally to Israel, you are doing it no service by giving it blind support. Expediting and expanding the provision of lethal weapons to Israel is only going to expand this conflict. It's only going to prolong and deepen the suffering. There can never be a resolution except around the negotiating table, and there's only one path to this, and that is a a free, sovereign, and independent Palestinian state living side by side in peace and security with the state of Israel. That is the only path that's gonna get us there.
Many analysts are already talking about that, and we hope that something like that can emerge from these ashes and this catastrophe. Queen Rania, thank you so much indeed for joining us.